Hello and welcome to the Geek on My Sleeve channel where we do weekly book reviews, summary recaps, and live book discussions every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. My name is Peter and I have my co-host with me here, Carl, and we are going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Land Founding a Lit RPG Saga Chaos Seed Book 1. Author is Aleron Kong. Narrator is Nick Podehl. This is going to count towards our 52 book challenge. If you enjoy any of this content, please like and subscribe. The length of the book is 292 pages, and the time of the audiobook is 9 hours 49 minutes. We will be going to Carl here for the synopsis, general overview.
All right, so the synopsis of The Land. In a lot of ways, Pete and I were talking about this earlier. This is as much of a definition of a lit RPG book genre as you can really define lit RPG. It has a lot of the typical MMO game mechanics, stats, level up, skill progression, spending, very much a portal to a quote unquote video game book where the character starts out as level one and we follow um, Richter as he progresses from noob into founding the Mist Village, which, if you've done any exploring of the Land series, you'll see the Mist Village pop up a lot. Book one is very much the origin story for what is currently a 8-book series. So we have Richter, our main character, who gets transported to this other world. You have demons, sprites, elves. You get a lot of the typical fantasy Dungeons and Dragons type creatures, right? Because it's a fantasy based virtual MMO. This book follows, I guess this isn't too much of a spoiler, but this book opens up like a lot of other books in the lit RPG genre where it's just a typical dungeon crawl, right? And our main character is the top notch, best of the best. I think they say he's part of like the top 100 teams for this MMO or this VR MMO. I forget the actual game type they qualify it as. It's in the future. And then he wakes up as a level one noob, right? In this fantasy realm. This is one of our favorite lit RPG series. I think this is like the second major series that we really got into in regards to lit RPG. And in so many ways, when somebody asks me to describe what a lit RPG is, the genre is wide, right? There are a lot of things that kind of fall into the lit RPG where not all things are the same. But for me, this one's like smack dab in the middle. um, all the MMO game mechanics, the combat, the skill progression, the even the sound effects for the audiobook, right, has the MMO feel to it.
So for an age rating, I would give it a T for teen, just because there is select suggested material and there is graphic combat. It is detailed to really add context and to help you visualize everything that's going on, but it's not like overly gory, so to speak.
Yeah, it has mature themes, right? Because it's very much a real world, even though it is a virtual world, and there are some mature themes in the book, right? So, not incredibly graphic, but a lot of sexual references, puns. There's a bit of a bromance in the book where you kind of have them, making quote unquote dirty jokes, et cetera, but nothing too vulgar, in my humble opinion. So, overall rating out of 5 stars, and then we'll get into the different categories as well, and give our thoughts on that. For me, this was a 5 out of 5 stars. Again, because if somebody asks me what is lit RPG, this is a great entry level book. It is on the shorter side, but we really get just so much set up and established in this first book. It leaves off at a good point. Don't give that out lightly, but yeah, 5 stars for me. How about you, Pete?
Okay, so yes, I would give this a 5 star. This is by far my number one pick for a lit RPG. It speaks to my very soul. It is just done so beautifully. Like 5 out of 5 because it is so relatable, it is so well executed. Just all around, if you take no other recommendations I ever give, please, for whatever is still good in this world, pick up the audiobook and listen to the series. Like, this book is so good. It has made any, or not any, but the majority of other audiobooks that I listen to seem so vanilla. And not the good kind of vanilla. Not like that vanilla wow where it's nostalgia and it's just good because it was the origin or the foundation, but like this series is amazing. Yeah, yeah. So 5 out of 5. You can leave now. It's that good. If you want more, we'll tell you why. So, scaling and progression. Like we talked about before, he has MMO experience, ends up getting transported, is now a level 1 nobody. For me, that's something I truly enjoy. I'd give it a 5 stars for how it goes within the time frame and also in span of the series as a whole as of currently. Yeah, scaling and progression is done very well. And yeah, how would you rate the scaling and progression out of 5?
I agree with you. 5 stars. And the book is under 10 hours long, yet when I go back and I look at how much was accomplished and what all we got done in this first book, it does it well. It wasn't rushed, yet we move all across the map, get so much established in this first book. There's a couple different quick subplots that didn't feel rushed, yet still contributed to just the overall building of the story. As far as like first books in a series go, it was really well done.
Alrighty, on to world building. Yet again, 5 stars, and that's in light of the whole series is just phenomenal. As far as book one goes, it just ties everything together so beautifully, and it is quite descriptive of the world, and it's not a super far stretch from other fantasy things in the realm or in the genre, so to speak. So it doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to build it up. And then there are a lot of cool, subtle nuances and just the way that there's not a one size fits all. And I guess for example, I am a huge fan of magic systems, and this book takes it to a whole nother level. Now, granted, it does get a lot better as you continue, but in this first one, there are so many ways that you can learn an ability. And for example, typical spell book. It's very common. You get a book, you meet the requirements, boom, you learn it. And then you can be taught it if if you have enough capacity, we'll just say, to learn the spell, someone can walk you through the steps and you get the feel and you become one with nature and you learn how to do the spell. And then you've also got kind of like a bestowing of hands vibe where you have become so in tune. You have not only learned what the world and the magic is made of, you have become one with it. So you can now connect through the void and bestow it upon other people. And that for me, like, was just the surface. Like that, most other things do it one size fits all. Hey, you've reached this level. You can now unlock this. You have points. You can do this. And not only that, and okay, our main guy does get a bit of an advantage, but it's not too much. It is a long game, and in the title it says it's a saga. So
You're getting a bit into character development there. Let me piggyback off you real quick on the world building and kind of going along the lines of what you said for the magic system. Again, I agree with you, 5 stars on the world building. But what usually gets me is when the world building is trying to be done and it's just all data being dumped on you, right? That gets overwhelming, that gets tiresome. I don't want to read through that, just pure data text on a page. But this book does a good job incorporating it into the story where the world is just getting built so naturally through whether it's dialogue or the game prompts. And again, the audiobook does such a great job incorporating the sound effects into some of those prompts that even when it is kind of data dumpy, you get that kind of nostalgia video game vibe from it. But yeah, tying into the character development, overall, maybe for me, this is one that doesn't quite hit the 5 star mark. I'd give it like a 4, 4.5. It does a really good job, but I've also read further in the series where I feel he does an even better job. So I can't quite go to the cap just yet because while we get a lot of main character development, which is important for the first book, some of these other peripheral characters he could have done a bit more on. What are your thoughts, Pete?
well, I would still stand true to the 5. Yes, there's a lot going on, and he could have done more, but I still feel there was enough relevant information to solidify the character in my mind. So,
Okay.
yet again, audiobook, please get it. I am not sponsored. We are not sponsored. This is just
Wait, wait, wait.
something.
We do have affiliate links down below, so if you do want to support the channel with an Audible subscription and give us a kickback, go check that out. But
Yeah, I
not exclusively sponsored for this video.
but for character development, it takes it from so many different elements, and due to some of the unique aspects of our character getting a leg up, they're able to kind of different races speak different languages. Our character is able to understand them, and between the simple elements of them sounding like woodwind instruments, for example, it adds kind of a nature and a quality to the race that then we get to see portrayed through everyone of that race, and yet they're all unique. Another big shout out to Aleron Kong and the audiobook at the very beginning, he kind of has like a snippet that he says, and he's like, "Hey, to my I forget what it is for this one, but to my mom for whatever." And he I'm pretty sure he based a lot of his characters off of, influential people in his life. And from the beginning insert to one of the people we meet, I very much got that vibe. And that just kind of set it up in my mind. Maybe he didn't, develop it so much the first book, but from his excerpt, I felt like I knew the vibe of this character. So I still feel there are a lot of characters that we just get snippets, but in the nature of what all is being done, I enjoyed it. And I think yeah, so we'll jump into voice actors and the sounds. And this is also why, please, for all that is left good in this world, pick up the audiobook. Like, this sold it. There is something the narrator does where typically there has to be some like cue, like, hey, these are internal thoughts, hey, I'm talking to someone. But just the tone of the narrator, I didn't need those cues. I could tell this is an internal thought. I could tell, I felt like he was addressing someone. So just between the internal monologue, the addressing people, beautifully executed. The voices, every character sounded unique. I felt like they were very much their race. I felt like they were very much a completely different character. Where this audiobook has ruined me for other audiobooks. Like, we put in voice actors and sound on our list of things that we would like to review, and this is the only one I feel confident of being like, "Hey, this is absolutely amazing. Pick up the audiobook, do it now." Where every other one I'm like, "Okay, if you enjoy reading books, if you enjoy this, it's about the story, it's about the journey, it's about the destination. No, pick up the audiobook. It is that good." And then going back into the lit RPG field, like, the sounds just spoke to my soul. You pick up an item, you got a sound. You hit a level, you got a sound. You reach a different level on a reputation, you get a sound. You do all these different aspects and elements in their sound. You get a bleed debuff, you get a sound, and they all feel amazing. They feel like I'm there, like it's a a world. Like, yes.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Yes. I couldn't say it better myself. Sound effects can make or break it for a book, and more often than not, I just want them to completely remove them because it kills the immersion for me, or they're just so poorly done to where you're just like, no, no, no. This book, looking back, has a good amount in it, and they're all just tastefully done that it helps with the immersion. And like you said, like, this is how additional sound effects and voice acting should be in an audiobook. More often than not, I'm just scratching my head like, why do I have horns trumpeting in my ears? It's totally killing the vibe for me. This book, it just added to it. Um, yeah, yeah. Writing style. I mean, another 5 star for you?
So, writing style, yet again, 5 star. And the biggest, number one reason for it is right off the bat as we get going, there's kind of like a philosophical, or well, okay, so it wraps everything up beautifully. It transitions so smoothly, and it keeps me interested and is relatable in so many ways. For example, there's a moment, it's very philosophical, it's a turning point in their life, and it's relatable because, like, I felt like life has kicked the beep out of me and I am just defeated. And then you watch the character development and the writing style just turn it around and them just be like, no, this is not, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to let this destroy me. And you get that. And then it transitions into comic relief. Oh, well, now that I've found a new outlook on life, now that I'm ready to give it 110%, I'm naked. And so you get the comic relief, and then it also just like transitions and it keeps the story progressing and adding different elements. I would say it's a little more male humor oriented for some of it, but I would recommend it 5 stars to anybody. It is very relatable in the philosophical things, and this book is amazing for quotes, for me at least, and it just was so relatable all the way around. It kept it progressing. There was always so much more going on. Please get the audiobook. And how did you feel?
Again, do you even need me for this spoiler-free review? I feel like you got everything so covered for this book. Um, my 2 cents on the writing style is everything Pete said is true. There's just so much good stuff in this book, from the lessons, the takeaway, the humor in the book. Yes, I agree. It's a bit more kind of male humor because you have a bit of a bromance going on in there where it's two young guys just messing with each other at times. But within that joking around and that humor, you get those life lessons of struggle and friendship. Um,
And
oh,
communication as well.
communication.
Sorry, jump in here. You do get a couple strong female role models. So there's your, why I'd recommend it to everybody. They're not shown, they're kind of glimpsed in the first one. Please continue the series. They just get even
Yes.
better.
Yes, a lot of good, strong characters and role models in there, and just the overall themes from the book, right? Like it's not a matter of like how much power you have, right? It's how you utilize it and how you use
Yeah,
it,
the
and
application.
yeah, the application of power, just like all these other things.
Foreshadowing, yet again, a 5 stars. And a lot of that is because I've continued in the series. Please pick up this series. I want to talk to people about this. Um, the foreshadowing, it does it so beautifully. Yet again, with the writing style, you're continuing to progress and advance and meet and reach your goals while adding elements that at the time it's like, okay, yeah, cool, we got this. And then you start thinking about it and you start seeing other elements that are added, and you're like, wait a minute, what if I did this? And the foreshadowing is done yet again so well. It's not blatant in your face, it's got elements all the way across the board, and the only way you can tell is by continuing the series. So now that you're going to continue the series, you will understand. And yeah, it's some of it's like, hey, I'm going to go back over here. And guess what? They go over there. But on the way, they pick up stuff, they meet different people, they interact with other things, which then, adds new elements to the repertoire and advances them even further. And yes, yes. So, final thoughts.
So tell me, Peter, do you recommend this book?
Yes, yes. And I would go even further and say stop physically reading it. You can do that as well. But if you take nothing else away from this, nothing else from ever visiting our channel ever again, get the audiobook and give the series a shot. Please.
And you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, we are about to release, not sure where in the order of things, our June schedule for our upcoming Geek Out streams, and proud to say this one made the cut for June, right?
Yes, I very much have been trying to play nice in the sandbox, and like I said before, this book ruined me. Like, he says he's the founder and the father of lit RPGs. This is currently the Mac Daddy, the grandfather, I would say now, because first one came out 2017, and that will be why, for me, of which you need to enjoy, June 14th, we will be going in deep dive discussion, hopefully with you guys, so I can get your feel for it. Yeah, of a Geek Out, the land, June 14th.
Yeah, and if you guys don't like it as much as we do, that's okay. Show up anyway, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and let us know. Like, happy to hear your counterpoints. We feel pretty solid in our assessment of this book. It is one of the ones that we keep going back to and re-listening to. I mean, how many times have you gone through the first book?
So I would say I've gone through the whole series up until 7, because that's the last one currently released, at least 14 times. This, when it first came out, I listened to the first book, and then the second one came out, and I listened to the first book and the second book, and the third one, first, second, third, and I went through all the way up until 7. The eighth book is out. It's not in audio format, and I'm sorry, I can't not listen to how good this sounds. So I have at least listened to it 14 times. This is my book that if I just need a getaway, and so why this book is so highly recommended from me. I am a huge epic fantasy deep dive develop magic systems. This does that. I used to be huge into MMORPGs, raiding and WoW and guilds and getting everything going and just developing a community. Haven't had time living vicariously through the musical ear feels of the audiobook. I just feel as if I'm there. So I'm able to live vicariously through it. It's yeah. So MMORPG, fantasy, you know, the age is pretty close. And yeah, male humor, all the way around. Yes,
So, should they go out and get the book?
yes, yes. Get the book if you really truly want to accept my recommendation. Pick up the audiobook. I don't know if I told you that yet, but it is just ruined me for everything else. It's done so phenomenal, so well. I guess the only downside is there are 8 of them currently. So if you're not into long-winded stuff, I guess that would be a downside. This first one is one of their shorter ones.
Yeah, I don't think it's a downside. I mean, it's just more time to play in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, The Land, Founding a Lit RPG Saga, Chaos Seeds Book 1 by Aleron Kong, narrated by Nick Podehl. That is a mouthful of a title, but worth every word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We good? Bye.